Josh, welcome. Thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you very much.
This platform is Blab. It's similar to, we've used Hangouts before, so it has some similarities. So
Okay.
what's going to happen is, and everyone that's watching right now, later in the conversation, I'm going to open up a seat and people can ask questions directly to you. But right now, I'm going to close the seat, and it's just going to be us.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna, we're just gonna have a little chat here about, Bitcoin, gold, and Vaultoro.
Yeah.
So for everyone that is here, Vaultoro is a Bitcoin gold exchange in real time, and it has an order book. So I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you come up with the idea for Vaultoro?
I'm so sorry, man. There's some other tab that's open. It's playing the trailer of the new Bitcoin film, and
Okay, well, sort your
I've
tab.
got to sort it out.
Okay, no problem. We're bearing with you.
Uh,
Yeah, I will open up, like I said, I will open up another seat briefly, depending on, how the conversation goes.
yeah.
So, Ksenia, you will be able to take a seat or someone else, and we'll rotate it in depending on how the conversation goes. But yeah, I was going to ask you about, how you came up with the idea because, most Bitcoin exchanges
Yeah.
are, for example, you can trade Bitcoin against dollar, Bitcoin against euro,
Yes.
or you can trade Bitcoin against other alternative currencies like Bitcoin Litecoin or Bitcoin Dogecoin,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's not like that. Your only trading pair is Bitcoin and gold.
That's
So
right.
just tell us about how you came up with that idea.
So it was really important for us when when we were coming up with the idea of building a transparent exchange. We really wanted to figure out how something can be truly auditable while being someone else's property, so that if an exchange disappears or something happens to them, that the counter value is still owned by the people trading. So gold was the perfect thing for that, because you can hold gold in a bailment contract, which means you hold it on behalf, you're securing someone else's property. And so when it happened when Mount Gox collapsed, and I lost a heap of money there, and we really were nutting out, how do we make a transparent exchange? First we started thinking about decentralized exchanges, but it was all too much. It was very slow to build a decentralized exchange. It's very slow. It's not real time. It hasn't got that sort of the price discovery mechanism behind it.
Right. So you can't do with a decentral exchange. It's very difficult to do how people are used to trading in a real time order book.
Exactly. And that's something that was really important for us, because what we wanted to do as a Bitcoin early adopter and as someone that's interested in Bitcoin, and still people that are interested in Bitcoin now, I still call them early adopters. They, a lot of them get into it because they want to exit this crazy messed up system that we're all in, this monetary system that's pretty much a global system, and want to try to find a different alternative. And by jumping into Bitcoin and then having to price Bitcoin still in this fiat, still in this messed up, controlled, debt-based currency, I sort of felt like we haven't removed ourselves far enough from that. So what I wanted to do was make sure that try to get gold to be used again as a global currency, so a commodity-backed currency, by using Bitcoin to instantly pay people the value of the gold that's sitting there. So, I also love physical gold. I love physical assets, having that there. I love Bitcoin. I love these virtual assets. But to be able to move these assets around and be able to pay someone on the other side of the world, or have people in developing countries saving in gold and spending as Bitcoin, is something that was really close to my heart, and it turns out a lot of other people's hearts too. It's great.
Okay, great. So can you tell us who or what were your inspiration to actually take the step to, create this company? That's why I invited you, because I have, similar, I was way before I was into Bitcoin, I was always interested in silver and gold and, you know, looking for pirate treasure and whatever else. It's just a fascinating thing. And why does this shiny metal have value, and so on? But what was your inspiration for taking the step from idea to startup to company?
Yeah, well, the collapse of Mount Gox really saddened me because I've been championing Bitcoin for a long time, and I felt like there was this major movement that was happening, this major movement around the world where people were starting to exit this system, and Bitcoin seemed like this amazing thing, and then time and time again, these exchanges would just collapse or be hacked and all this
Mm.
stuff. And every time I thought, man, these idiots are ruining it for everyone because we're really at a time now, a critical time for humanity, where we're now seeing the evolution of money into something that can be controlled again by the people instead of by these massive multinational elite banks um, and governments. And so when having that history of gold behind me and wanting same what you were saying is understanding why gold is money and why it's interesting and attaching that to cryptocurrency made it this beautiful mixture. We have something like sorry, I'm getting an echo, I think.
I will turn my mic on.
Oh yeah. Um, when gold is spent. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but having this idea of a commodity based currency, something that's spent into existence and not lent into existence. When every time you have some money in your pocket, you are actually holding someone else's debt. Whereas gold, you find it and you've got it and you spend it. So the intrinsic debt isn't there. And that's something that's really critical, I think, because if you zoom out, your people are trying to clamor for paying off interest that doesn't exist yet. And so you get this constant different classes of people clamoring to get out of debt when there is only debt. And there's people that are out of it and into it. And you can zoom out a bit and see that on a more scaled out level when you see with Greece, Spain, Puerto Rico, these sort of countries left in this huge debt while other countries are doing well. And this all seems wrong, as well as the constant for years they've had, the elite have really kept countries crushed them down so they couldn't enter the global marketplace. And people talk about these free trade agreements and how they really love free trade, but actually the banking system's very controlled and very tightly controlled around some countries that they can't do business with, and South America and a lot of parts of Africa, and it's basically because of infrastructure. And Bitcoin really solves all that, but it's extremely, very volatile, and you have these dodgy exchanges. So we really wanted to build something where people could start saving in gold by like accepting Bitcoin, hedging it into gold instantly, and then sending it back out. And that was the inspiration behind Vaultoro.
Okay, great. Yes, I get it. So for people that are unfamiliar, that are new to Bitcoin, they might have heard about Mount Gox or MT Gox, but I just want to touch on it briefly. MT Gox, so basically all of these exchanges that we talk about, it's just a website. It's a business. Okay. And you send your Bitcoins there and you can exchange them for another currency, whether that's dollar, euro, Litecoin, another cryptocurrency, etc. So that is a central point of failure. It's a service. So anytime you send your Bitcoin somewhere, you're giving up the power of your private keys, essentially, some control, a little bit of control. Okay. And so what happened was MT Gox was the largest exchange with the largest volume. And long story short, they went under. And, it's still ongoing about trying to recover the Bitcoins and trace them. You can trace them somewhat. But anyway, just comes and there have been other exchanges that have been hacked or, like Joshua said, hacked, because the thing about Bitcoin is that the positive thing is that there's very little friction to send it, but that also means that it's like cash. So if I lay my $5 on the sidewalk and someone takes it, well, it's gone. And that's similar to when you quote hack an exchange and someone has control of that Bitcoin. Well, they don't have, there's no way, you can't give it back. So that is what led to, inspiring you to make an exchange that is transparent and more auditable. Before we get into the technicals of that, which is really interesting, I want to ask, has Vaultoro received any VC money or investor funding, and how did you guys get started? And if you did approach investors, how did you do it?
We started with the idea, and then we thought, right, what are we going to do? Let's build a prototype. And we built this prototype, and that we basically developed for over a year. During that time, we needed to find some money to live on because, life. And so we built a very, very, very basic version of Vaultoro, and then went around to some close sort of friends and family who also knew some sort of, people that had a bit more cash lying around and were interested in gold and in Bitcoin. And we raised 60K euro, and then we also I also added some to that. So all up, we had 100K, and then we bought a whole chunk of gold in the Pro Aurum vault to start making this market and selling that into the market and then buying it back if people wanted, to make sure that there's liquidity. So institutional VC funding we haven't done yet. We've started to put our feelers out now because we're starting to want to raise cash, and we're about to launch a crowdfunding campaign because as well as Bitcoin, I feel that institutional investors have sort of stitched up the market, or VCs have stitched up the market for so many years to make it illegal to sell equity in a company for startup funds. And because, we're here to protect the little guy, and we don't want the little guy to be ripped off by, investing in some company that then, doesn't do what it says. But really, these laws have sort of been pretty much sure. I'm pretty much sure these laws were originally passed by these very wealthy people to make sure that they get the pickings of the first cool startups. And once they go public, then you can have a go with your shares and stuff. So
you want to go the crowd, try to offer some kind of equity and make it so the little guy can buy a small amount of equity. Is that the general idea?
So that'll be through.
It's complicated, I think, because, as far as the US SEC is really kind of like interested whenever you do anything that looks like a share.
Yeah.
And but I'm not a lawyer, so I think where there's a will, there's a way. It's possible. People a lot of times bring up Oculus Rift, which was that the virtual reality crowdfunding, and the people did get what they were supposed to get in the crowdfunding, but a lot of people felt kind of gypped because then they sold for, I think, billions or something like that. And if they would have, all the people that supported them just had a small share, everyone would have benefited. There would have been more than enough to go around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would have been the fair thing theoretically, but it's
instead of they got a version, they got a version 0.01 beta.
Yeah.
All crackly and doesn't quite track.
Right, exactly.
It's the same with Skype, right? Skype it wasn't that people crowd-funded it, but people crowd-used it. It built this network effect of very passionate people saying, wow, look, you can make phone calls, Skype. People, oh, have you got Skype yet? At the end of the day, that network effect is what gave Skype its value. And then Skype sells for, I think it was $1 billion as well, or something crazy, to Microsoft. Where the people that built the usability of the thing, that actually used it to start with, that built the network, that made it so when you downloaded Skype, you're pretty much sure that someone is going to be part of that, is the original people, and they never saw any money. And this is where I think is, when people say, oh, Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme or something like that, I would say, well, no, it's a network that's building. And of course, the people that are starting to, evangelize it earlier on, or starting to use it or accept it, are putting themselves at risk because they're using resources to use this thing, or to mine it, or to you accept it. And so it's risky for them because it could go down as well. And so by them building this network, it builds worth. And then instead of selling out to Microsoft for millions and the early adopters getting nothing, it promotes adoption. And I think crowdfunding is really a nice way of democratizing investment again, outside of usability, to bring it back to crowdfunding.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe there is a way for you guys to issue some kind of share or equity in a way that doesn't cause any legal issues. And we have in chat that 8.5 billion was Skype to Microsoft. So that's a sizable amount.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But okay, so going back to your company, what was the biggest hiccup that you guys have had so far that you would say?
Man, the life of a startup, it's just every day there's some new challenge, and it's always fun to take on these challenges as challenges instead of as hiccups and scary things, and just see them as, okay, let's do this. How do we get around this? But I think our biggest challenge, I think it's getting a bank account as a Bitcoin business. As soon as you mention the word Bitcoin, banks are like, step away, step away from the counter, exit, turn straight around.
May I ask, did you guys end up with a Fedor Bank in Germany, or is it another bank that gave you service?
No, because we're a London-based company, they didn't allow it, and they started allowing London now, but only individuals. So it's an ongoing thing, but we're managing to sort it now slowly. It's a bit of a roundabout thing, but we had to go to London because of the regulatory environment in Germany. It wasn't. Bitcoin has a great regulatory environment for the user. It's very well defined, so you can, if you hold Bitcoin for more than a year, it's tax free on a capital gains, and that's the same with gold. So whereas the regulations, if you have an exchange, is pretty intense. So we thought it's better to go to London, where I'm a great believer in regulation, but regulation through mathematics and incentives, and private auditing, and letting the market say, we want to use you because you offer this level of transparency, and we're not going to use people that don't. And I really try to promote that, because if we don't, some other big exchange will go down, and we're all going to scream, and draconian, Orwellian regulations, which will basically just destroy the startup scene in this fintech sector, which is really important to disruption.
Well, yeah, let's get into that because you guys do a lot. So the first part I want to cover is the gold side
Yep.
because, like I've said before, I believe every day there are the volume of gold derivatives or future or maybe just futures contracts, but I believe all derivatives, the amount of gold derivatives traded in one day is about the amount of gold that is mined in 1 year. So basically, it is now that's not it. It's about, okay. It could be.
Mm.
So it's really, I mean, I'm not a derivatives are okay. That is a tool in itself, but just to give you a perspective on what is really driving the price, I would tend to say that the derivatives are pushing the price around as opposed to the real asset. Now, I didn't do a doctorate on it or anything like that. This is just I'm
Mm.
just throwing that out there. But
Yep.
what I want to say is that you guys are backing this. I'm not trading gold as a certain value, a dollar value, or a derivative of gold. I'm actually trading. You guys are offering physical gold delivery if I really want, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's your gold, so you can get delivered out to you for sure. The important thing is that we wanted to we wanted to build banking 2.0. We wanted to basically say, look, what do we want with banks? We want full reserves, super important. We want or above full reserves. We want transparency, but we also want that the counter value that we're putting into the bank is our property. It's really important as a user. I mean, when you deposit euros into a bank or dollars into a bank, you're actually giving that money to the bank, and the bank says, we owe you this much. And then they go off and play with it and do whatever they want. And so it's really important for banking 2.0 is to say, hey, screw all that, where we want property that's in our name held as our property. So we are really if the vault's here with the gold, we're here just allowing people to trade that with each other. So if anything happens to us, people can still get their gold that's in the vault. And that's really, really important. Now, when it comes to physical delivery, it's a tricky thing because we're not really set up for physical delivery. We can do it, and we do it, but it's not the most economical way to buy it because the Vaultoro in Switzerland are in a duty-free zone. As soon as the gold leaves that duty-free zone, it attracts Swiss taxes, and then there's shipping costs, there's smelting costs, then there's taxes on the other country, the receiving country. It's much better to sell the gold instantly on the exchange for Bitcoin, transfer that Bitcoin over to your local dealer, and buy gold that way. Saying that, as a last resort, we definitely, it's your gold, and so of course we can send it out.
Okay, great. So you mentioned that even if you guys, disappear for whatever reason, that I can still get my gold from the vault in Switzerland. I can get it delivered.
Yeah.
Or theoretically, I could drive up there, I guess, but I could have it delivered. So it's assigned to my name that I use when I sign up for your exchange, right?
Yeah, so when people sign up, we've made it as easy as possible because we want people in developing countries who don't have KYC paperwork really to satisfy KYC regulations to be able to hedge the Bitcoin volatility. And so to do this, we allow people to sign up with just an email and a password. And the gold is held then in the name of the email address. And you can do that up to $5,000 a day. In European law, when you're trading a good, you don't have to have KYC until 7,500 euros a day. We've lowered that to $5,000 a day, just to be well within regulation. But it's it's really important because people can, in these developing countries that need Bitcoin more than the wealthy countries, can then just sign up on their app, on their phone or whatever, and instantly hedge. Um, but the question was, oh yeah, if the name. So we do ask people to verify themselves if they start getting more, and verifying basically means uploading a name, some sort of ID, whether it's a driver's license or a passport, and a proof of billing. This is a lot more for the user's security. If they lose their passport, lose their password or their two-factor authentication, or they can't get in, we can verify them by them sending us those documents again. We can also, if they ask for physical delivery, we like that they're verified beforehand so they can prove that they are, someone hasn't just jumped on their computer and hacked into their account or something like that.
Okay.
So we do recommend people verify themselves for their safety. I mean, if they were to pass away, the estate's management, it's quite costly to really prove that an email address belonged to the deceased. So we ask for, and that cost would come out of the pool that's sitting on our exchange on Vaultoro. So it's really important that people verify themselves for their own security if they're going to start holding more amounts. Yeah.
Okay, great. So you guys also have a way to audit the Bitcoin holdings, right? That you guys hold.
Yeah, the Bitcoin and gold holdings.
Right. So I can go when I'm at your site. So Bitcoin you can do an audit of because of the nature of Bitcoin. You can do a kind of proof of reserves. Now, I believe last time we spoke, you were talking about something called a warm wallet. Had like hot wallet. Most people know hot wallet, cold wallet. So
yeah.
Hot wallet is just a wallet connected to the internet. Cold wallet is not connected to the internet. And you guys were talking about something called a warm wallet. So it's kind of between. And you do offer maybe the most transparent, way audit for exchange. So can you just give us a brief overview on what kind of, how, if I were to put a bunch of money in your exchange to trade or to buy gold or whatever, how could I audit that you really have the gold and you really, or you really have the Bitcoin?
Look, this is one of the most important things and something that I'm really passionate about, because the market needs to demand transparency from every single exchange. And if they don't offer transparency, and a certain type of transparency, it doesn't matter if companies go, oh, we're transparent, and then you think, well, how? And they go, well, here's this little thing here, this funny little hash, and that's meant to prove transparency, and you think,
are you talking about proof of reserves? Or because I think that I'm not, anyone here that is into Bitcoin might know what he's talking about, but what it is that it's a tricky thing, because on one hand, you can do a lot of things with cryptography, but on the other hand, I could just borrow the Bitcoins, do a proof of reserve, say, hey, look, on this date, I had all the Bitcoins, and then I'd give back the loaned Bitcoin. So it's kind of a weird, a sticky situation as far as proving that the exchange really does have those coins every single day.
yeah.
It's more complicated than it sounds.
Well, and this is a problem because public auditing, so there's two types of auditing. There's private auditing and public auditing. Private auditing is where you get a big firm in, they come in and they do their checks and balances and make sure everything works, and then give you the big thumbs up, and they're a big company, so you trust them. Public auditing, it takes less trust. It takes, almost zero trust, because you're hoping for many eyes to look at something. So the concept is really important, is that there's a heap of people all looking. The problem is when it gets too complicated, that pool of eyes comes down quite drastically to people that can really understand, the Greg Maxwell, Peter Todd proof of liability. It was a proof of liability, proof of reserves. Yeah, I think it was.
I think it's called proof of reserves, but it's
yeah. And So what they do, just a quick roundup, is you take basically a table which is a hash, and I've given a talk about this actually. It might be a bit too complex to explain here without any sort of diagrams, but basically you start hashing everything up and you build this Merkle tree, and you only need to show parts of the Merkle tree to show the sum of all holdings. But again, it's very, very complex. And so what we try to do is to say, look, scrap that. We need to make this easy. We want grandma to be able to go, oh, yes, that's correct. And that's really, really important. As I said, the more eyes that can do this constantly, the better. Plus, the hashing version, where you build this Merkle tree, generally the user has to be logged in. And when the user's logged in, of course, the exchange knows and can show the right numbers for that person. So how do we get around it?
Yeah, that's that. Sorry, I'm not sure. I think if you're not familiar with what a Merkle tree is, then I suggest that you just kind of Google it. It's kind of hard to explain right here on the spot. But okay, do continue, Joshua. I just wanted to say that.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, Merkle trees, they're not that hard. Basically, when you have you have a one-way function called a hash, which allows you to put anything in and get, I think it's 128-bit, like a bunch of characters that are always different. And if you put the exact same input in, you get the exact same bunch of numbers and
Yeah.
letters.
So I just want to say really quick, basically you can't fake it. It's kind of like you can use it for things because I could have never known. How can I explain it? There's a lot of uses for Merkle tree and it's really amazing. So it just allows for things. You can't fake things out then if you use Merkle trees in the right way. That's how I explain it to people.
Yeah, and you can. So if you put an input into one, you get one hash, and then an input into another, you get another hash, and then you can hash those two hashes and get one single hash. So out of many, many things, inputs, you can build this tree up to one single hash. And if you change one decimal point or one space in any document, the final hash will be different too. So, but the
Okay.
reason why we scrap that is because we wanted grandma. So what do we do at Vaultoro?
Right.
We give everyone an anonymous ID, and we allow them to. We basically publish that anonymous ID logged out, so people don't need to be logged in. Publish the anonymous ID. Publish what that anonymous ID has as held as Bitcoin and as gold. And so anyone can log in at any time and go, oh yeah, I'm here. That's how much gold and Bitcoin I've got. And they can see everybody else's too. Plus they can see the sum of everybody's holdings. So if yours is correct, you would say, well, mine's correct. And so let's look at the sum and have a look at the proof of reserves. So they're the proof of liability. Okay, that's how much I have on this exchange. And actually, proof of liability is the wrong term because it belongs to you. So it's just that there's this, yeah. But what you then do is say, okay, this many Bitcoins are sum, and then you can check the cold wallet, multi-signature cold wallets, which are also published, and you can check how much is in there, and you can check what we were talking about before, Theo, this warm wallet. I'll go into that in a little bit later. But you can check that. But then with the gold holdings, what we do is we publish a statement from Pro-Orum, which is the vaulting company. This is one of Europe's largest gold vaulting bullion dealers and vaulting companies. And we publish a statement of how much Vaultoro members own on those in the Swiss vault. And then we also publish the BDO international audit that they get done twice a year. So BDO does a private audit. So we're talking about the public audit where people can audit, but BDO privately audits and goes into these vaults with internationally standardized auditing routine. And then the insurance papers at the end of all that, so you can check them. And so that's the way to basically transparently, constantly prove in real time um, how much people own and how much is in the vaults. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a lot. You've done a lot, made a big effort to be as transparent as possible. And I think
Yeah.
that's really great. So we do have some questions from chat. I'm gonna get to those before we get too geeked out on Merkle trees or something like that. So what do you think about Open Bazaar? So what's your take on Open Bazaar? And we've got a Covert here. Hi, Covert. He says, Josh, I've been talking to Theo and looking to use Bitcoin to fund our work helping the homeless. What do you recommend? So I have sent him over to Sean's Outpost to see what they're doing. But yeah, maybe you have some thoughts on that, and I have some thoughts on the Open Bazaar project.
Hey, I love the Open Bazaar project. I think it's a really, really, really important project. To be able to decentralize eBay is one of the coolest evolutions of the internet. To not have this rent-seeking style stuff, which eBay has managed to corner the market for so long. Yeah, there's definitely competition, and eBay is in a free market. It's not like they're using violence to continue having so many users. They're just got that network effect, and people keep going back. And there's Etsy now and all these other things. But by having Open Bazaar, I think is a definite beautiful step towards decentralizing markets. And when I say decentralizing markets, I really also mean globalizing them, truly globalizing them, because we're still, we talk about this globalized world, but really it's the rich countries that are globalized. A lot of the developing countries still don't have access to these wider markets, because they can't accept money, because the banking's too ridiculous, and two, they just don't have the resources to get in touch with these customers, these global customers. But with something like Open Bazaar and Bitcoin, mixing them together is really evolutionary, really, really beautiful and evolutionary. What was the second question?
The second question was what would be a good way to help fund feeding the homeless and helping the homeless with Bitcoin? So Covert is doing that in Cincinnati, I believe. And
Well done. Great.
yeah, it sounds like he's doing a really good job. And yeah, I was showing him Sean's Outpost. And so I know Sean's Outpost, they collect a lot of donations with Bitcoin because then it allows anyone to donate quickly,
Yeah.
easily, frictionlessly worldwide. So that is one good aspect
Yeah.
of it. I don't know. Do you have any suggestions or ideas on how people could, fund feeding the homeless project with Bitcoin?
Yeah. I think, being more of a voluntarist myself, I think the case for privatizing um, charity is really, really important, because it brings heart back to charity. When we get money extracted through coercion, and then that money is helping homeless, we sort of walk past these homeless and we go, oh, my taxes already pay for this. Well, don't bother me. My taxes pay for this. And it steals the heart from people, and by having something like Bitcoin or something that is private, or private organizations that are looking out for these people, and you're funding them, you feel like you're actually doing something again. You're doing something anyway through your taxes, but this way you're doing something with actually wanting to do it. And it's a really important definition. In terms of Bitcoin, Sean's Outpost is such a beautiful example of free free heart-filled charity, free market, I meant to say. they've been around for the longest time. I mean, they were around when alpaca socks were the only thing available for Bitcoin. So, you know,
Well, a long time for Bitcoin. They've been around.
a long time for
Yeah.
Bitcoin, yeah. And always doing amazing stuff. I haven't actually heard from them for a long time. I don't know what's happened there. Yeah, I'm not sure
Well,
if the
they're
Bitcoin.
still doing work, but I think that they're taking a little bit of a lower profile, and also you've got to realize in Bitcoin we had 2013 $100,
Yeah,
and then into $1,000 the value,
yeah,
and then back down to under 200 this year at one point.
mm,
So what happened is that donations when the price was going down were just low, to be honest, and they did have some issues with that, but that's the reality of it. And that's you know people were more giving when the price was going to the moon, and that's how it worked out. Now what's going to happen in the future, I don't know. I do know they have a lot of work, and they also have Satoshi Forest, which is actually land they bought, and is really. They also have a lot of legal fights here and there about it. It's quite complicated.
I,
My
yeah,
I don't know. Oh, I don't want to. I just want to say my quick idea I had just when Covert asked that in the chat is that I would say get a Bitcoin address as your donation address. Maybe when you do a discussion here at Blab or wherever about homeless or some other topic,
mm,
you could say, okay, if you want to donate, then send to this address. Of course, it would have to be people that have Bitcoin to send there, but maybe if it could happen. And then when you use the Bitcoin to buy something, whether that's like I suggested, you buy gift cards with it, that you document it. You say, hey guys, check this out on the blockchain. This is where I bought the gift cards.
yeah,
It goes back to that whole theme we had about the transparency,
mm,
and where I see a big possibilities with charities and transparency. And later, when you get more sophisticated, then you could jump to multi-signature, where when there really are people donating, then you could say, okay, you're donating to a multi-signature address, and
definitely. It's really
that
easy
is.
to do. If you download Copay, uh, it's an open source application. I think it's Android, it's iPhone, it's everything, and it's beautifully easy to use multi-sig wallet. So it's really good for corporate governance because you can have multiple people have to sign these things instead of one, and so it's really important. But I would also say, in terms of charity and Bitcoin, looking at the crowdfunding model of Kickstarter, people really love little tokens of appreciation back. And that can come in form of photos or leaderboards or something. And Bitcoin's really cool because you can generate new addresses every time something comes in, and that address can be sort of associated to whatever you want, so an avatar or whatever. So people because a lot of the time you sort of, Bitcoin's so anonymous in terms of giving. You can send something and they will never know who it came from, which is beautiful. And if you want that, that's cool too. But I think what in general society, I'm not an expert in this at all, but people tend to really enjoy when they get a thank you somehow. And a lot of people really love to get a public thank you too. So that mixed with transparency and saying, look, we can this, or allowing people to choose. Look, do we want this, that, and the other thing? Would you want to donate to a new shelter, a well, or whatever it is, and allowing people to choose from different things? There's these sort of ideas, and Bitcoin's a really good form because it allows people to donate from all around the world instead of just your area. Plus, it allows people to donate smaller transactions, which and hope for bigger volume of people. This will take a
Okay, great.
while. Yeah, because Bitcoin really needs to spread.
Okay, great. So we've got P has joined us. He's taking a seat. Hi, P. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? You guys hear me okay?
Hey,
Yeah, I
Pete.
do. So, yeah, I think someone else hears us too. So, you had
Yeah.
a question about Lightning Network or other blockchain tech. Tell us what
So
your.
basically, so basically my question was, Josh, so Vaultoro's approach, the new thing that it brings to the forefront is asset backing for a digital asset, which is really cool. What is some of the innovation that you're seeing out there that kind of, and I said other than Lightning Network because it's been talked about so much, side chains and all of that, but what's
Yeah.
something that kind of excites you right now?
Um, wow. I would have to say, the storage project is something that's really exciting. I love the idea of a decentralized Dropbox because at the end of the day, a decentralized Dropbox is basically a decentralized internet because once you can start hosting websites on these decentralized Dropboxes and routing, let's say, Namecoin sort of decentralized DNS
Right.
ledgers to be able to point to these different decentralized web hostings, I think we can then start to make sure that there's not a censored internet, which is, is scary for some people. But at the end of the day, folks, the bad stuff's out there anyway. You have to fight it with good old-fashioned police work, not with censorship.
That's true. That's a constant frustration, isn't it? With new tech, it always butts against what I like to call kind of like the echoes of the known. People's old approaches that have been working because they have full control out of all ends. So of course, any peer-to-peer tech is going to be extremely disruptive and scary to people that make a living by keeping the status quo. So that's why it's really exciting to see stuff like Vaultoro and storage. It's and specifically like with Namecoin, the fact that decentralized DNS is really cool. So
Man,
yeah, it's always cool.
yeah, it's fantastic. I really wish Namecoin had have taken off a little bit more. Who knows? Maybe it'll all of a sudden just explode in terms of use. The thing was, I think a lot of early squatting happened, and but I think the thought was there. It was one of the first alts, so I think we'll see. We're already starting to see other ways of dealing with decentralizing DNS. So that's really excellent.
Yeah, squatting is always going to be an issue once you open up that
Yeah.
avenue of possibility.
Also, I think we've got to realize that Namecoin is not a startup. It's an open source project. There's no VC money. There's no one getting paid really to develop all that stuff out. So
That's true.
there's no Namecoin Foundation really. You know what I mean? So it's tough. I mean, that's one aspect of it I think that has kind of contributed to it. Now, Namecoin, without getting we can talk about alts a little bit, but without getting too crazy, it does still exist and still it's not being used that much for DNS. That's true, but it is merge mined with Bitcoin, so it has a high hash rate. So I think that it still has some kind of future. Of course, if there was a strong utility like offering a real a decentral DNS that's easy to use, then that would be good. There is something called I forgot something Kitty, like Namecoin Kitty or something, which is a plugin that allows you to view Namecoin addresses. Yeah,
The .bit addresses.
yeah, it makes it easier. Now I don't. It's still not really that easy. And anyway, wherever you host it is going to be centralized, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have that yet. We just have that you can't censor the domain itself. You can't seize it. So you've had governments that would seize the domain, like in the WikiLeaks, they seize some domains, I believe, or for whatever purpose. A lot of times it's copyright violations, but for whatever reason, they will seize the actual domain. So Namecoin would solve that problem. but it doesn't solve the other problem. Maybe combined with storage, like we were talking about,
Yeah.
that's a really interesting combination. Now, P, thanks a lot. I would
Yeah, thanks,
say
Pete.
I would say I would kick you out, but I can't figure out how. So if you would leave, I will open it up to someone else. I don't mean to.
You got it, brother.
Okay, cool.
It's nice talking to you,
yeah, thanks a lot for coming on. So if anyone else wants to have a seat, or wait, I can open up a seat. Sorry, I'm learning this too. We're really high tech here on Bitcoin World. We're really good at technology. So actually, there is another seat open. If someone did want to have a seat and ask Joshua a question while we're here. Okay, cool. Thanks, Sean. I do have a question since we did mention an altcoin, Namecoin. So Vaultoro has teamed up with Shapeshift. So now you're using Shapeshift, and I can basically use any of the, or not basically, I can use any of the altcoins that Shapeshift supports to get funds over to Vaultoro, and essentially I can buy gold with any of the altcoins that Shapeshift supports. Now, for people that don't know, Shapeshift.io supports a good amount of altcoins, and it's a very easy way to use altcoins to buy about anything now. So they've really made it easy. So have you seen a increase of volume of altcoin usage, or is it kind of slow to get going? Or
no, as soon as we launched it, people were excited about it. So what it does is it anyone sends an alt to the Shapeshift address, and that converts it to Bitcoin, which then sends it to their Bitcoin address on Vaultoro. Where we sort of launched this at the same time that we launched an instant order feature. So basically, when we watch the Bitcoin address, your Bitcoin address on the blockchain, as soon as any Bitcoin come in, we set off an instant buy order of gold for that amount. And that buy order can be a market or a limit or a middle of the spread or whatever they choose at the time beforehand. The good thing with Shapeshift is once you've set up, so once you get your altcoin address, let's say it's Dash or Dogecoin, let's say it's Dogecoin, they send it to this Dogecoin address. That is automatically linked then to your, no, it's not automatically. Yeah, it is automatically through the system. Linked to your Bitcoin address, and then the Bitcoin come in, and then auto sends a gold buy. The great thing with that is once it's set up, you can continue sending money to that address, and it'll automatically do that. So even a year later, you can send something to that. And so what we're finding is a lot of miners are using this to hedge the volatility of these alts or the volatility of Bitcoin in general. So they'll automatically be mining to the Shapeshift address. It'll convert it and buy gold. So they're effectively mining gold with
wow. So they're really mining gold, basically.
Yeah, without the coal face. Yeah.
Without the coal face. So that's kind of cool. That's an interesting use. I never thought of it that way, but that's opens up a lot more possibilities.
Yeah, it's pretty meta.
It is. It's really is.
And mining and what? Now I've got physical gold. But,
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. So I have another question. What new features are you going to add to Vaultoro? I think you're working on an affiliate program. Yeah. I was reading in the suggestion area about. Well, there was, of course, the ongoing topic of leverage trading, and I think there's some other ideas. I'm sure you guys have a lot on your plate. What's next up? What's next up for and here at Blab too? I'm sure the Blab guys every day. Oh, I want this feature. I want this feature. Yeah. Give me this feature. I want this feature. And it's the same for you guys, especially in Bitcoin world. Oh, I need this. Now you figured out the altcoins thing, so you don't need to say. You probably get it, every day a new email. Oh, I've got a new altcoin. Are you guys going to accept it? Right now, you solved that with Shapeshift.io, so you're clear with that, right? Yeah. So now the next step. What's the next step?
Yeah, look, the next step is definitely the affiliate program. We want to, we're a lean startup where we don't have massive amounts of budget for promotion and advertising and stuff. And so again, we really feel like affiliate systems are really nice because again, it allows people to decentralize certain aspects of businesses while still allowing them to profit from their work. And it's permissionless as well, so people can be anywhere and just start writing articles or sending people to us, and they'll get a percentage. We're still figuring out the fine tuning that, but that's really exciting. And of course, leverage trading. We want to allow people to be able to lend their gold to people, to then short sell it, hopefully to buy it back earlier and later buy it back cheaper, sorry, and then make a profit on that.
Okay, so yeah, right. So you mean a kind of peer-to-peer lending platform for margin trading?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the way Bitfinex works?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't used it that much, but yeah, I'm definitely I mean, I've used it, but I don't use it very much.
Okay. Well, I can go there and I can, I can trade, but I can also, loan out my Bitcoin for about, I don't know what the going rate is, about 0.01% a day or less, I think, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it is if you manage to keep it loaned out a lot. And so is that what you're trying to say, that I could loan out my gold for a low interest rate, or I could trade on leverage theoretically?
Yeah, exactly. We wanted people to be able to make money on their holdings by loaning them out, and then the system would automatically, if the person that borrowed them, if the price went against that move, if they started going up, it would automatically sell, and the people borrowing them would have a deposit on the system as well that would cover any of those losses on your end.
Yeah. So I can't go in the negative. Everything is still backed up 100%. It's just that you'd have a margin call system where at a certain point they would get margin called, I assume.
The system would call it. And the thing is that what's really nice about that sort of system is that you have a marketplace for interest. So if you're lending out your Bitcoin, you have to compete with prices with other people that are lending out. So you have an actual market price, some market feedback on what interest should be, which is quite an interesting, because at the moment with the central banking system, they just go, well, we think it should be, and pull the lever to whatever they want. Which really isn't a marketplace, it's just a control.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I always tell people it's kind of like a volume knob, like Mario Draghi is there. He thinks he's the DJ Mario, and he's like, okay, I'm going to turn it down, interest rate. Now we're at 0.001% or something like that. So.
And it's really crazy. I mean, to think about a market like that, a marketplace, there's so many variables. It's like having a little one lever differential for the whole weather. You're saying, well, if I, vaporize a lot of steam here, that's my only thing I can do, and I'm hoping to change the whole weather. It's crazy.
Definitely. So, okay, we talked about leverage trading. That would bring more volume. It's a big project, but that would bring more volume. Are you guys basically the market maker, and are you looking for market makers, and how does that work?
Yeah, that's another feature that we want to bring. We want to have market maker accounts. Currently, we are supplying liquidity on both sides, as well as our users. If the users want to sell cheaper than us, then they can jump in front of us. And this is a big difference between us and some competition that's in the market. The only competition that's in the market, they are basically not a marketplace, they're a broker. So they'll always have their spread, and they're the only counterparty. So that's the thing. They do it, like BitReserve do a great job. They're a great bunch of people, but again, they're the only people supplying you selling and buying from you. So if you're holding a lot of gold, then all of a sudden they decide, not saying that they would, they're very above board people, company, I'm sure, but I can't talk for them. It's just an example. With that scenario, you have the risk of the party just saying, well, if you want Bitcoin back, it's really expensive. Whereas because we're a marketplace, if we do that, other people will just jump in front of us and go, oh, I'm going closer to spot price, and offer their buy or sell close to the spot. So it's really, that's what I really think is important, that we, you have multiple people, you have a marketplace of thousands of people. Saying that, it's something that we have to figure out. It'll happen naturally. We don't make a profit on the spread just yet. We probably will as we slowly move out, as we hope that people will move in to make markets. Plus, we'll have a market maker profile. If people want to supply liquidity, then they'll get a cheaper rate from us, of course, a way cheaper rate, trading fee, I mean. And so it's, yeah, but having a marketplace, and we're the only one doing it at the moment, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, great. Okay, well, we're about to wrap it up. Does anyone have any final questions, or I'm going to open up the seat again if anyone wants to jump in. I think that we've gone over a lot of questions. Josh, do you have anything else you want to add? Or
I just want to say thanks to Covert. He left already, but yeah, thanks for saying thanks. And yeah, all the guys here on the chat. It's great. Actually, one thing that I'm excited about is our phone app. So we're developing an app where people can. This is mainly it's for everyone, but the developing country will be really good for, because they can accept Bitcoin and instantly put a hedge of gold, so they can say 50-50 split, or 80-20, or 10-90, whatever they want, or 100%. And as soon as Bitcoin comes in, it gets changed to gold. And then when they want to send that Bitcoin, send the value in gold again, they can send it as Bitcoin, so they can make sure that they're hedging that risk. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Again, it'll take a while, because we're a very small team, and that's why we're going to go after this funding. That'll be on Bank to the Future, by the way, everyone. That's Simon Dixon and Max Kaiser's platform. It's really, really cool. And they sort out, like, back to the point what you were saying, Theo, with the legalities of doing equity crowdfunding. They've sorted all that side for us, so it's really cool, and for the users.
Okay, great. That sounds great. Yeah, they're quite active, and trying to build that up, that equity crowdfunding model. And yeah, they're set up, so I guess they've got the legal stuff sorted. So that's great. I'll look for that.
Yeah.
And anyone, I put a link into the box, Vaultoro, if you want to check it out. And I really do like the idea of the app. That's great, so that you can just hedge directly. That I think people understand that when it's in their hand. Sometimes a little bit more.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I'm gonna invite you again sometime, and you can hang around Blab.
Yeah, I'll look forward to it. I love these conversations, and I'd love to come on to hear other people getting interviewed too, and ask some questions, because there's some really awesome people in the Bitcoin space. I think the smartest people in the world are really attracted to Bitcoin, and it doesn't cease to amaze me every time I go to some of these meetups, the amazing minds that are doing projects in this space. So it's always fun.
Okay, great.